We are back. Hello, world, and welcome to The Code or Not to Code. I'm Mili Eva. I'm really happy to be here with you today. And I'm here with my good friend, Stefan. How are you doing, Stefan?
I am nervous. No, actually, we talked about it. I'm excited. Yes.
Yes, excited is the correct word. If you're new to this channel, we're two friends who got together a few months ago and decided we wanted to build projects together. We have very different experiences in coding, so I'm pretty new to it, but Stefan is far more advanced. But if our previous project is any indication, I think we make a pretty good team. I think it's always super fun to code with you, and I think we've both learned a thing or two along the way as well. So it's been
Likewise.
informative as well.
Definitely. Everything always
Also,
goes both ways.
it totally does. It totally does, particularly with this thing. Sometimes it's because I ask like the basic questions, and sometimes it's really good to go back to the basics because they're really interesting. Our streams are always live, so while we do a little bit of preparation, most of it is completely improvised. So yes, Stefan really does code this fast, and yes, I really do code this slow. So just bear with us, or bear with me, with Stefan. Try and keep up. But yeah, this is actually our first episode of the new season. So we have a new project, which is super, super exciting. I really, really can't wait to get started. But before we tell you what our new project is, let's have a little look into what's new in the tech world. We have this new section where we have like a NewsFlash. We look into what's new, what tech news are currently happening. What's good to know. So what's new, Stefan? Do you have anything for us today?
Indeed.
Nice.
So, news that were released just yesterday is that the first preview of .NET 8 is now out, which means that every month we will now get a new preview of .NET 8 in our finger. Below our fingertips. What is this English expression?
Yeah, totally.
And
We'll have it at our fingertips. So
at our fingertips, right?
I think that's an English expression. Oh, it's always our streams are also always a little bit of an English course as well
Yeah.
because but we're both like we're working in a second language, so sometimes it's slightly tricky, but we'll get there in the end.
And .NET 8 will be exciting. So basically, all you have to do is more or less installing the new SDK, currently in preview. So we'll have to be patient until until November of this year for .NET 8 to be released. But there will be exciting new improvements. AOT, ahead of time compilation, has more features, is better. We may touch that in a future episode. Also, the BCL, the base class library, gets a lot of improvements, such as, if I will find it, the one that I'm currently looking forward to, the frozen. Are they not frozen? Here they are, a new set of collections, frozen collections, that are truly immutable and offer quite a performance boost. We will be touching on collections and the differences throughout this season as well. And yeah, tons of improvements already in the first preview, and as always, improvements in the code generation. So .NET 8 will be faster than ever, and can't wait to November to come.
November is the release date. Is that official?
It's always not sure if the final release date is out yet, but usually .NET releases on November each year.
Okay, so it's like a Thanksgiving present. That's amazing. I'm really, really excited. Particularly like the different .NET versions. We did have a slight discussion about it, and as Stefan said, I think we're going to touch quite a few topics that are sort of like opened here in future episodes. But cool. Are we ready to announce a new project, or what our goal is for today and for the next couple of
Definitely.
weeks? So well, we had a couple of ideas. We had plenty of ideas actually of what we're going to build in this season, and in the end, one of Stefan's ideas actually won. We wanted to build a .NET tool. I've never even heard of it before. I've never built one, certainly. I think Stefan's built about 1 million. So What is
Not
a
at
.NET
all.
tool?
Not at all. I've never published one. I only
Oh,
fantasized about building one, having the use case or having the excuse to actually build one, and now I do.
oh no way! I didn't know that. See, already learned something, and we're like 5 minutes into the stream. Very good.
So I'll be also very much learning how to properly build a .NET tool in this season.
Amazing. So, what can we see here? So, how do we, what are .NET tools? Why do we need them, or what
So
do we use them
.NET
for?
.NET tool is basically a command line application that you can pack as a NuGet package and then distribute and install and update and run all via NuGet slash the .NET SDK. So, for example, if you go to NuGet.org and have a look at one of the .NET tools that I'm actively using. This is .NET Striker. This tool enables mutation testing. We will definitely touch on a future episode what mutation testing is. I'm still searching for a guest because we also want to host some guests on specific topics for that season. So stay tuned for that as well. And for example, .NET Striker is a .NET tool. We can see that in NuGet.org. It says here that this package contains a .NET tool. And we can now consume and we can install this .NET tool via the .NET SDK and run it. So basically all we need is the .NET SDK installed and we can get tools from the web that we trust. We definitely need to trust the author of that tool because it's just a command line application. Okay. And that could technically read your drive and publish the content to the internet. So technically,
oh god,
so trust is definitely yes. So, but
so
that's also very powerful.
How do you choose who to trust? Are there like any indicators? Is it like how many downloads there are, or how many? I don't know. Suspicious people. So like a blacklist of people whose code you shouldn't download. Are we on it? No, we're not on it.
Not yet, but why did I say not yet? But yeah, the number of downloads definitely is an indicator, and also that's for me if the tool is actually open source or not. So if this is a not well-known vendor of a tool, then, for example, Striker, we can have a look at the source code. Of course, you should also have a look at how this tool was built, if it was it automatically built, because you could technically do an attack. Now, of course, I dropped the word for that. Supply chain attack, in order to basically, well, if I could get a hold of the account of the Striker team, I could basically publish my own malicious version of that. So two-factor authentication and stuff all should be enabled, and the supply chain supplied. And I like to have a look at the source code, or if it's a vendor that I trust, for example, Microsoft or Amazon, they build for their services, for example, for Azure Functions and the Azure Lambda. There is .NET tools for that, and I would trust these vendors. And if it's a public open source project, then have a look at the source code, but also the downloads. Yeah, that's an indicator.
Amazing. Always, obviously, if you built it yourself, then you trust yourself. If you've got faith in yourself, then you can download, you can share it with your friends and family, I suppose. That's really cool. Okay, and so NuGet, I know it because I've sometimes like used NuGet packages. I sort of like you go in. I work with Visual Studio, and then you go into manage NuGet packages, and then you download them, and then you have to usually like register them, and then you can use them. But are there any? So this is how I know them. I know them as a consumer and as a very sort of like newbie coding consumer. But are there any? So what's special about NuGet? Are there any other places where you could sort of upload packages and share them, or is this sort of the leading I don't know, provider, or what does it sort of do?
So NuGet itself is the technology behind creating a package and distributing and versioning that package and uploading it, downloading it, and so on. And now several parties can offer a so-called NuGet feed. This is where you can publish your packages and consume the packages of somebody else. For example, NuGet.org, that's the biggest public feed. So everybody can make themselves an account there. You need a Microsoft account and then can publish your packages, or you can consume any NuGet package from there. NuGet.org is also, when you install the .NET SDK, NuGet.org is per default set up, so you can immediately start getting packages, getting code that somebody else built, and accelerate the development of your project. But you could also have a private feed. For example, in companies, the company I'm currently working, we have an Azure DevOps feed, and this is not public. This is only within our company, so that we can we don't need to basically open source everything and still can have the power of NuGet and consuming these packages internally. And you could also create your own feed, because that's a cool. Default, that's a standard technology. So you could create your own feed if you want.
Amazing. That sounds really cool. Really, really powerful, and again, like very sort of like user friendly. And anyone can use it. Anyone can make an account, and you can share your lovely packages with the world. Fabulous. Amazing. Okay, so we know what a .NET tool is. We know how we're going to share it. What's the next step?
Trying to create one, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get right in. Let's get right into that then.
So let's start, because we wanted to start from the very beginning. So we want to make everything public, everything live, everything open source. So let's start in the beginning, creating our new project. Perhaps last season you watched us creating the Advent calendar. We already talked about it. We have like content planned for the next 3 years already. So we will definitely be coming back to that at the end of the year. Potentially then also upgrading to .NET 8 when it has released. Lots of good stuff ahead of us.
So it's not just .NET 8 coming out in November. Also, like a new version of our Advent calendar is scheduled for that time as well. So be prepared.
Yes. Now I really can't wait for November.
Same.
So let's create a new repository. We will call that, I got the name prepared, flashover.tool. So we have our stream name and the suffix tool, because I'm super creative. And description, for now, let's also stick with a generic one. It will be a .NET tool that facilitates development workflows, because we will lead with a command that enables you to transform using declarations to global using declarations. We will later figure out what that all means. So let's make it public so you can have a look at it as well. Let's add a README file. Let's add a git ignore file. If you do .NET, it's a good idea to start with the Visual Studio one. We will overwrite this later, but that's a good default. And as a license, I like to choose the MIT license, because .NET is also under the MIT license. So here goes my creativity. And we got everything set. We have the tool name. We are public. Yes. So let's create the repository.
Woo!
And there it is. Now I need to clone that locally. I could do this with a command line, but I always forget the git commands. So I like to use GitHub Desktop.
Oh, that's cool. Do I have that? I don't have that.
Perhaps. So I can go here. I've logged in, and I guess I need to refresh. Does it work? Yes, there we go.
Yes.
And clone the tool. I can link. There is an about section, right? So I'll put in the link the page in the video. in the video. So in the live chat, but later on in the description of the video, the link to GitHub Desktop if you want to use it yourself. I find it super, super convenient when working with GitHub repositories. I think you can also work with other Git repositories. Doesn't necessarily need to be GitHub, but I haven't tried that yet so far.
Sounds cool. I'll definitely get it because I don't think I have it
And
for next time.
now we have the local repository, so let's open a command line.
Yay!
Because we still got to do some CLI stuff. And we need to create a solution and add a project into that solution. So let's have a look at our directory. We start with the git ignore. That's the one that contains the Visual Studio ignore. So, okay, what's a git ignore? A git ignore
Good question.
tells us which files should not per default be added to commit messages. For example, if I build a .NET project, there is a lot of intermediate files that I shouldn't check in because they may be different with every build. What needs to be checked in is the source code, the C# file. But you don't want to check in the results because you can build the result yourself. We want to check in all the sources. And all those intermediate and published files that are per default ignored in that, and also some other auxiliary files that we don't necessarily need. And when we hit the Visual Studio, when we select the Visual Studio git ignore, that's a sensible default. We will definitely inspect this in a future episode, but for now it's a good start.
Okay.
And yeah, let's create a folder in here, and I totally forgot the command in that. So I gotta do it the noob way.
That's good. Hey, I'm a noob, so let's do it my way. Let's do it.
Go to the Windows Explorer.
Nice. New folder.
New folder. Yes, the new folder experience.
This is exactly how I work. There you go.
Create a folder called src where we'll put in our sources, and we will also create a folder tools for our .NET tool. Later on, we will have tests as well, but this is for future episodes. Next
can't wait for
episode
that,
actually already. Cool. Now let's have a look. We got our source directory, so let's cd into that source directory. We currently have the tools folder, so in here, let's create a solution. We will be creating .NET. Okay, what did I do beforehand? I did go to .NET. So it's .NET. I will also post this in the chat and later on in the video description, where we can... Ooh, there is somebody live. That's not us though.
What? Wow.
Where you can... There is also content, so if you want to have more content on .NET, you can go to .NET, follow this live tab, and for example, currently there's also the MySQL and .NET community stand-up going on, and there is a lot of playlists and channels. So there is on the web, there is enough .NET. There is too much even .NET content that you could possibly consume.
Never too much. You know that song? Never too much, never too much.
I meant like...
I'll link the song as well in the description. No.
There is a too much song?
Yes, of course. I forgot what it is. It's like, I think it's 80s or something. And it's called never too much, never too much, never too much. It's really cool.
I guess I'm
I'll link it in the description. No, I think I just embarrassed myself because I just sang live on our live stream. Never mind.
Yeah, so it supports all the major operating systems, so it's cross-platform, open source, everything. And I went ahead and downloaded the latest .NET 7 SDK. We need the SDK in order to build .NET tools that we can then afterwards run with the .NET runtime. So we have basically we have both the runtime and an SDK installed. And I can do that when I hit .NET --version. That's the command for seeing which version of .NET I have currently installed. It's 7.0.1002. So we have the .NET 7, the latest version of the .NET 7 SDK installed. And we can also, well, this is the version that is currently selected. But we can have multiple SDKs installed in parallel. So if I would hit .NET-list-SDKs, this command now lists all the SDKs that I've currently installed. I only have this one currently installed, but we could have multiple installed in parallel, which is the true power of this of the younger .NET, because .NET is not 20 years old, and there has been with the .NET Core branding, which is now just .NET, quite a shift into being enable more powerful deployment scenarios, and now we can have multiple versions of .NET installed. And let's have a look at which runtimes I've installed. So we can have list-runtimes, and I have various runtimes installed.
Wow.
So I have the .NET 7 runtimes installed and the .NET 6 runtimes. So we'll be later on definitely do some multi-targeting that we basically enable our tool to run on both if the user has the latest .NET 7 installed or .NET 6 installed, that's the bigger difference between .NET 6 and .NET 7. .NET 6 is a so-called LTS, a long-term support. So long-term supports are supported for 3 years, and .NET 7 is a standard term support, which is supported for 1 year. Which means support means that there is regular patch releases coming out, fixing potential bugs or security issues. And so when .NET 8, again, will also be an LTS, so that also will be then supported for 3 years when it comes out. And we want to support, our tool should support all the versions that are currently supported. So we don't care about out of support versions because they don't get any bug fixes or security patches. But we do want to support all the versions that are also supported by Microsoft. So we will be doing some multi-targeting. So a lot of learning ahead of us.
Yeah, exciting.
Right. And now actually what I want to do is create a solution. So there is a .NET New command, and via the .NET New command, we have several templates of which we can create either files or projects from. So if I say .NET New list, I get a whole list of templates. So actually what we did for the advent calendar, we selected the Blazor WebAssembly app. So this is where we started 1, 2, 3, like 5 months ago.
Yeah, something like that. That was really cool. That was good times. Good times. Go check it out if you're interested.
And we are Friesen6 is waving. I have a déjà vu. I think you have regularly viewed our Advent Calendar episode as well. So thank you very much for being back. And so we're going to now start we will create a solution. And we will also, since a .NET tool basically is a console application, we will use the console app template as well. So let's create a new solution that will be .NET New SLN, and we can enter a name for that solution. Well, actually, we see, get a preview, I already did some testing. If I'm not sure what is supported, I can always, with this command line, enter --help. And that now lists some options that I can do. So we see that this .NET New solution that creates a solution file. This template has been created by Microsoft. We have a description, and we get all the options that we have. So we can enter a name. We could also enter a directory. And so we will definitely be using the name because I want to give it a custom name. Otherwise, it will inherit the name from the parent directory. But so it shouldn't be called SRC. The name should be where is it? flashover.tool. I want to copy that. So we say .NET New SLN --name, or we could also use the shorthand version, which is just -n. It's the very same thing. -n flashover.tool. And if I list the directory, we now have our solution. And now let's jump into the tools directory. cd into the tools, and let's create our project there. Now the console application. So .NET New console, and let's have a look at the help. So we can select, again, we will select the name and also we can put it into a location. So we will also use that, and also the framework. There it is. So which framework do we want to start with? Do we want to start with .NET 6 or do we want to start with targeting .NET 7?
That is a very good question, because on the one hand, I'm always sort of like in favor of, playing with the newest toys and getting the newest versions and sort of trying everything, like having just all the new stuff that's come out. On the other hand, obviously .NET 6, it's more people. I guess more people will have it. I think we're more used to it as well. The two of us. I don't know about you. I am definitely. And it's just, I guess, more compatible. Therefore, because it's sort of like more people have it. I don't know. So maybe potentially we could start with .NET 6 is what I'm saying. And if we come to sort of like a feature where we know that it's something really new and shiny and exciting, it is available in .NET 7, we can do this multi-targeting thing that you mentioned before. I don't know. What do you think?
That sounds great.
That sounds great. Fabulous.
That sounds great. So we say -f net 6 because by default it would select. We see here default is .NET 7, but we want to lead with .NET 6. But we will do some multi-targeting. We will definitely support .NET 7, and by the end of the year we also support .NET 8. And
yes, we will. Woo!
Which actually your salty devil is suggesting why not go for .NET 8? Because the first preview was already released. I haven't installed it yet, to be frank, so I'm not prepared yet. But we could also later on do multi-targeting with the .NET 8 pre-release. Why not? So we will definitely have a look at .NET 8 before it becomes release as well. And thanks for tuning in. Yes, so we now have the folder. So if we have a look into this folder, we will see that this template has been created. We have our CS project. Every C# project has in its center the CS project, which brings everything together. And then we can have one or multiple C# files which contain our source code, and we will be using this CS project in order to build and pack our tool from our C# files from. And now we need to go back to the solution and actually add this project to the solution. I'm totally forgot how this works. So this is, you can do this via the, okay. I see, because this is what I'm also using is Windows Terminal. I'll also link this later. And Windows Terminal suggests previous commands that you've entered. And this is what I did like yesterday. So this helps me a lot. But I actually forgot how to do that. So I would say .NET SLN help, and now get a help of what we can do. So we can select the solution file and then say add, and add a path to the project to have it added. So let's go to .NET SLN, our solution file, add our project file, which is in tools/CS_proj. There we go. I had tab 2 of auto completion, and the project has been added to our solution. Cool. So let's check out that solution. We'll be using Visual Studio Code for now. So I'll be saying code dot, which now opens this window here. Folder workspace. Would I like to open the repository? Yes, please. And no, and yes. So let's create a Visual Studio Live share session so that you can join in and help me edit the code. Starting a collaboration session. copying this link that I'll be only sharing with you.
Because I'm VIP.
Indeed. And if you can, let me know if you can follow that link. But in the meantime, so this is one of the extensions that I've installed for Visual Studio Code. Let's zoom in. Basically, what the most important extension that we'll be needing is the C# extension that enables us to write C# code and build .NET projects. And also we have the live share extension so that Eva can join in the collaboration session and edit code with me on my machine.
Woo! And here I am. I've joined the collaboration session.
Sweet.
Hello.
Ooh. So here's our source code. So this is our CS Purge. And also, so let's have a look at our solution. In the solution, we will see that this project has been added. So that command worked. And oh, there's an edit, yes. And here's our CS project file. So we target, we have our SDK selected. Our output type is an exe. So this is a console application that we can run, and we're targeting .NET 6. This will be also then the hook for us to do multi-targeting in future episodes. The other parts I will comment out for now, because we want to show what nullable, what that means. And also, I think we touched on this in one of the Advent Calendar episodes, but I want to go at that again. And also what implicit usings are. And this implicit usings is actually, implicit usings is creating global using directives, which our tool will also be related to. So much for teasing. And so I will be commenting these out for now, and we will definitely come back to this later. Some projects have trouble loading. Okay. And now let's see if our tool works. So can you see, if you hit, can you see a terminal on your end? Actually, let's switch to this view. Then we see more of the command line. So if we enter now we want to run this. So we also in this command we need to switch to that directory. So let's cd into tools. Let's cd into that directory. Now we are in the directory where the CS project is, which means we can now hit .NET run. And this will run the application, and we get an error. The name console does not exist. Oh yes, because I disabled the implicit usings. This is why we need to add a using actually. So this is now what the C# extension enables. If I hit Control dot, we get a quick fix because we need the using declarations. And our tool will be messing with these in the future. So now we should be able to run our application .NET run, and it prints hello world to the console. But you're not quite happy with the text, aren't we?
No, we're not happy with the text.
Would you mind improving this?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so this is, I'm here. Okay, we get rid of this because this is terrible. We want to have two code. Oh my God. Where's my preparation? Where's my little, there it is. No, it didn't work. It did work. Yes. Or, not to, this is what I meant before. I really code this slow. And Stefan is really this fast. Or not to code. That is the question. Exclamation mark. Any Shakespeare fans amongst our viewers? Because this is obviously derived from very famous Shakespeare quote, which is "To be or not to be, that is the question." Shakespeare's Hamlet, which is one of my favorite plays. Don't know if the theatre peeps are represented here today. Maybe I'm the only representative. But yeah, that's the output I'm happy with. What do you think? You happy with that?
Let's run it. And if we run that, we indeed get two code or not the code printed out to the console.
Fabulous. I'm happy.
And yeah, now it's time because we wanted to show what a .NET tool is and how we can build oneself. So we now have a console application. We target .NET 6. We also saw that on my local machine, if I do again .NET --list -runtimes, we see that I do indeed have the .NET 6 runtime installed. So we can now pack this and run it as a tool. So talking about packing, per default, a console application isn't turning into a tool. We need some adaptations in the CS project for that. So let's jump over to this documentation, create a .NET tool. I'll be linking this in the chat and also later on in the video description. So here, basically, it's also this part of the documentation, explains what a .NET tool is, how you can install, how you can create yourself, how can you install it, and how can you run them. And so, yeah, this is what we did. We created a new command line application. Here's the spoiler for multi-targeting. The teaser, yes. And now it's time to pack the tool. So I'll be copying this block of code and putting into our CS project. Actually, let's create ourselves a new property group, and in that property group we will add this block.
Nice.
And this block says that we want to pack this as a tool. So because per default, if we pack, we assume that it's a library. There's actually three types of NuGet packages. If we jump over to NuGet.org again, we can actually see them here. So we can have a dependency. This is a classic .NET library, a class library, which contains classes and methods that we can use in order to get functionality, such as like the most downloaded package is with billion? Almost 3, is that billion?
Here's a big number.
Downloads is newtons of JSON, which is a JSON parsing library. So this is a dependency. Then we can also have a template. So we could actually have our own template, and if we would do .NET new list, this template could be included in that list actually. So we can also install and uninstall our custom templates. For example, to create, we could have a template that creates a .NET tool per default and has all these properties set, for example. And also, this is our target, a .NET tool.
Nice.
And per default, we will get a dependency, but we don't want to have a dependency. We want to have a tool. So this is why we need pack as tool. Now here we can say the command name, because we will run it on the CLI, so we need some identifier in order to run our console application. And we wanted to call it flashover, the name of our channel. Let's transform this to lowercase. So this will be the name, how we can run our tool. And this will be the output of the NuGet package that we can then install. And with these three, so this is the package output path is optional. Per default, it's going somewhere in the bin, in a bin directory, but this way it's more discoverable. And the tool command name is also optional. Per default, it will use the project name. So it would be flashover.tool per default. Pack as tool is not optional. We need that, otherwise we don't get a tool. Okay. And now, if we go to the command line, let's switch to that directory. There we go. Now we say .NET Pack, and .NET Pack now builds and packs our project into a NuGet package. And this has now created indeed the NuPKG folder that we have declared here. And if we have a look into this folder, let's jump in there. We now have here our NuGet package, and we have it in version 1.0.0. Per default, that's the version number. We will deal with versioning and so on in future episodes. And I have it application installed with which we can inspect .NET tools. This is the NuGet Package Explorer. Let me post a link in the chat. And via the NuGet Package Explorer, we can have a look at this NuGet package. NuGet package is basically a zip file in a specific format. And in here, we now have a tools directory.
Cool.
In this tools directory, we have our .NET 6 target. When we do multi-targeting, there will be more in the future. And we also have some files in here. And like this flashover.tool.dll, this will be where our code lives and what will be then ran. And if you have your NuGet package deployed on NuGet.org, you can actually have a look at that NuGet Package Explorer from the web browser. So if I go to the Newtonsoft JSON project and hit, where is it? Here, open NuGet Package Explorer. This also exists as a web application, and which basically does the same thing as the desktop application that I saw, that you showed. So it loads this NuGet package, and we can have a look at it. And we now see this is not a tool. This is a library, a dependency package, because it has the lib folder, and they also do multi-targeting. They support quite a range of target frameworks.
Cool.
All right, but I am digressing way too much. Still want to install that tool. So let's install that tool. With a CLI, we can say .NET tool. I will ask for help. So with .NET tool, this is our entry point into the tool world. And we can install, uninstall, update packages. We can list currently installed packages. We can run packages and so on. So let's install a package. So let's hit .NET install, and we will install it first globally. There's two consumption models. We can install it globally or locally. I'll start with globally. So that means let's do .NET install --help. Again, we get more help, and I misspelled. Is there .NET tool install help, of course. And so we want to set the --global modifier to have it global. We will do local later. And we also want to we want to add a source, because by default, we would try to search that package on NuGet.org. We haven't published that yet. We will do this in a future episode when we actually got something ready. But for now, we want to install it from a local source, which is my local directory. So we need to add the source. So let's go .NET tool install --global. And now we can say add source, and we will add our directory to our NuGet folder, which will be auto-completion, helps me already. And now we say the name of our tool, which is flashover.tool. And now it's installed. So the tool flashover.null has been successfully installed in this version. So we can now say .NET tool list -g to list all the global tools. And there we have it. And we can run it with this command that we have entered in the CS project. So we can now say flashover, and we get good or not good.
No way! Amazing. I love it. Best tool ever.
We should publish that already.
We should already publish it. Yeah, I think
maybe
lots of people need this tool.
Maybe we lead with the publishing to NuGet episodes. Yeah. And yeah, so this is now a global install. So this is available on the machine. So I just go anywhere. Let's go to the root of C, and I can say flashover here as well, and it works. It's
nice.
Installed globally. Now, if I would install it locally, this looks a little bit different. So let me first uninstall the tool. I say .NET tool uninstall -G because it's a global tool, and say the package ID. So this is flashover.tool. And now it's uninstalled again. So if I type flashover again, it says this is not recognized. It's not there anymore. And now I want to install it locally. So basically what I now change is from install --global to --local. Actually, this local is optional. If I wouldn't write that, it would be implicitly local. But now we get an error because for local tools, we also need a tool manifest. So let's first create this tool manifest. There is a .NET template for that. So we can say .NET new tool manifest. Now let's have a look at how this manifest file looks like. This is in the config folder a JSON file, which basically contains a version. Says if it's the root, so we could have multiple manifests in a hierarchy, and we have a collection of tools. It's currently empty, so let's now install this tool locally. And now it's basically installed. So this means you could also install it like by adding this code. Well, if it's consumed from NuGet, but that's for a future episode. Okay. So we basically see the same thing. So we have the tool with that ID installed in that version, and also the command with which we can execute it. And now again, we will be able to run .NET. Just flashover. Hold on. No. Now because it's a local tool, we actually need to say .NET and then what we want to run. So I can't, because it's not global installed anymore, I can't say just flashover. This doesn't work anymore. Now I have to say .NET, name of the tool, or .NET 1, name of the tool. So this both works. Mm-hmm. But now we need to actually be in that file hierarchy. So because our current working directory is where this .config folder with the manifest is in, that works. If I would go to the parent directory and would try to run it from here, .NET 1 flashover, it wouldn't work anymore because it's only local. So if we have a look, perhaps this is more palpable from the file explorer. So if we are in any of the directories where this .config folder is, which has the manifest file, we can run the .NET tool from. So we could be either in here or in any of the subdirectories and would be able to run this tool. But if we are outside of this directory, it doesn't work anymore because the local tool requires this manifest. And now the cool part is if you use local tools, you could actually check in this .NET tool JSON into the source control of the project, and then everybody who checks out this repository now has the same version of this tool, not necessarily installed, but installable. You can then do a restore. This would be then a .NET tool restore, which would now, if we have the manifest file, of course, which would now install this tool locally. So basically we can, if we have a repository and we want every developer to consume the same version of a tool, local tools would be the way to go because I don't need to explicitly manually install it globally on my machine.
Okay, interesting. I got two questions. First question. So sometimes because obviously, when I look at the output window, I see my face and your face, and sometimes when you type it, I can't see the code underneath it.
No, I made a mistake. Yay! Yes, I made a mistake. Uh-oh.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I still saw most of it, and I think it was understandable. I don't know how our viewers feel about it, but I think it's understandable. And the second one is so that was a really good sort of example of why you would use local tools as opposed to global tools. Well, yeah. So no, that was a really good example as to why you would use local tools. Oh my god! Because if you're working with a bunch of people and you want to all work with the same version, you don't want to have like issues with just people having different versions installed. But why would you use a global tool? Just if you're working on your own, or are there other benefits to global tools? Or what kind of tools would you want to have globally,
Yes.
and what kind of tools would you want to have locally?
For
That's the second
example,
question.
well, I'm using well, I'm using I have the Windows terminal, but the shell I'm using is PowerShell. And actually, I have installed this PowerShell that I'm using as a .NET global tool. So if I do on my machine .NET, so now I have the correct view, now we can all see it, .NET tool list -g, we see that I have the PowerShell in version 7.3.2 installed. And now my installation of Windows Terminal is actually using that. So here is my PowerShell profile, and this PowerShell profile is actually using this globally installed .NET tool. So I don't have to download some installer and install the latest version of PowerShell for me. I basically just do a .NET tool update -g PowerShell, and this is how I get the latest version of PowerShell on my machine.
Cool. Oh, really interesting. Okay, but there was no confirmation now. Oh, there is one.
So yeah. The problem is I can't update it because I'm currently running this PowerShell, so I can't update it. I would need to go to a different shell in order to update it.
Okay.
Because I can't update what is currently used by another process.
Interesting. So are we
Sorry, go ahead.
Are we building a global tool or a local tool?
No, we're building a .NET tool.
We're building a .NET tool, but
then it's up to the consumer how to install it, if they install it locally or globally.
Okay.
The .NET tool itself doesn't know
where it's called.
Let's have a look what .NET tools out there. So let's search for .NET tools. So there is a couple of .NET tools. For example, the .NET EF, which is a tool which facilitates development with Entity Framework. It enables, for example, migrations. We'll not jump into Entity Framework and databases in this stream too much. So this tool doesn't know how it's installed. It's just there. I could install it globally because I'm basically using it everywhere and anywhere. But if the tool would be part of some, for example, let's say CI, continuous integration systems such as GitHub, Azure DevOps, TeamCity, now many others I can't think of, but some automated builds. If I want to use a tool during that build, it would be a good idea to have it installed locally because then it's part of the repository. And the agent who is running that build script would now get that version that is mentioned in the tool manifest. And we can make it part of the pipeline and don't need to prepare the agent and ensure that we have this tool installed already, and then manually keep this version up to date on all those. If we have 700 agents, I would need to manage 700 agents. But if I have it installed locally, it's part of the repository, and I just need one step, which does a .NET tool update, or not, because it's actually part of the manifest. So I just do a .NET tool restore, and then it's installed from the manifest, and I'm basically managing the version via the repository. And I also get more of a reproducible build, because that version of the tool is also versioned together with the rest of my source, and all is in one package, and I don't have any fragmentations and no real manual setup steps. But if I'm, for example, there is .NET tools that, because the .NET tool is just a console application, there is games. I'm just searching. Maybe there's a Tetris. I can imagine there was a Tetris. Terminal Tetris. Let's see if this is really, so this is a .NET tool. Cool. It has 280 downloads. Not sure if I trust it because I also cannot view the source, so I wouldn't trust it, but I would assume this contains a console application that lets us play Tetris. And not sure if I would want to make that part of a repository. I would install this globally to not mess with anybody else's machine too much.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Cool. That's a really fun application, actually. I'd be tempted to try that out.
I would love to
one
see
day.
the source though. I wouldn't dare, because there is definitely with .NET tools, there's definitely potential security risk because it's a command line application. It doesn't run like in the browser where we have the sandbox protecting us. It runs in full trust. So whatever you can do with .NET and C# could be done with a tool.
Okay. Fabulous. So if whoever wrote that tool is watching right now, please message us. Come on as a guest, show us your code, and then we can play Tetris together. And we can have a Tetris competition.
This would be perfect. This would be perfect.
But okay, so we built our tool. It's working globally, it's working locally, it's working wonderfully, actually. It's just not doing very much at the moment. I mean, not that, having to code or not to code, that is the question on your terminal, is not it's not super useful for everyone around the globe. But I think it's not what you originally planned for a tool to be doing.
Well, it's the essential. It's the essentials. Let's publish that and let's call it a season.
Yeah, I agree. And let's go back to advent calendars.
Yes. Perhaps this is now an opportunity to tease, or no, to not spoil. What's the other word? To
tease.
To give an outlook. What we want our tool to do is to manage global usings. So if I have, let's say I have 7 different C# files. Can I copy paste that? Yes. So let's create a new one. I call it my class. And I now create here a class. I say this is a public class, my class, which has a method, my method. And this method prints to code or not to code. It does, again, console white line. But again, I need this using system. And if I have 7 other files, or if I have like 1 million other files where I use console.whiteline, I always need the system, because the type console. So we have the method whiteline, which prints to the console, in the class or in the type console, which is in the namespace system. If I would like to reproduce that, I have namespace. Basically, what this is, there is somewhere a namespace system. And in this namespace system, there is a public class console. And then this public class, actually, it's static. And in that class is now a public void white line method, which takes a string and then does the code in order to output something to the console. Now we get an error because it's already defined. But this is basically in .NET, somebody wrote this code. And this console type is in this system namespace. And we need to import that system namespace by writing using system on top. If I wouldn't have that, I can also explicitly declare it, but then I always need to say system. I need to specify the namespace, then the type, then the method I want to invoke. But if I don't want a white system all the time, I can put it as a using declaration up here. And if I now have this in 700 million files, I have every time using system on top. And if I don't want to do that, I can with C# 6 can have a global using. So let me create yet another file. I call this my global usings. And in here, I say using system, I say global using system. So I turn this using directive into a global using directive. And this means basically for each and every file that we have in this CS project, we already have using.system imported. So I now can get rid of all the using systems in all of this 1600 million files, whatever I said, and it would still work. So we can still .NET 1. If if I have the correct view. Yes.
Yes.
And it still works. And now our tool, what we want to achieve with our tool is to give an overview of all the using declarations in place. So let's say we have using system, but also if I want to have something to do with lists and collections, I will most likely have using.system.collections.generic. And now our tool would go through every C# file and accumulate the usages of all using declarations, then give us a number of how many of them are in use, and then turn them optionally into a global using. So basically removing it from here and putting it a single time in here. And this is what our .NET tool then will be doing.
Okay.
As first. There is many more features we could add it later, but this would be the first thing to build.
So, but will we list all the usings or just all the duplicate usings or the ones that are used more than once?
I would say all the usings. And if
All
one
the
is only
usings.
used once, then it will say, okay, it is only used once.
In one file.
And we could then order by the amount of usages, and then to offer the developer, they see, okay, this particular using I only have 3 times, so adding it as a global using is perhaps a bit of an overkill. But this other usings I have like 200 million times. Perhaps code would be simpler if I could basically remove, if I have it in 200 million files, I could change 200 million using declarations to just one single using declaration. Yeah.
Cool. So it just makes it a lot more, I don't know, readable, a lot cleaner, a lot sort of like it's better packaged in a way. Does it have any other benefits, or is it just sort of more visually, or better? How do you say? Better formatting.
No. So that's the thing. So you don't have to add it in each and every file where you want to use it. It's basically removing clutter on the top, because if I have multiple usings, I just add now the same using. Like I will have different usings, but there is like, if I have a type which does many things, I may have like 14 usings at the beginning. So I need to scroll to get to the actual content of that file. And by turning commonly used using declarations into one single global, I basically gain some vertical space.
Nice. Very cool. Are we
It
starting?
Only applies to this one single project where we have that in use. It's not applied globally. Also to other projects. It's only for this one project.
Nice. What will be the first step? Can we start today? I'm already excited. I already want to get started. Or is it too soon?
I guess we need.
Leave it as
well, before we start with actual logic, I would say that we also need testing set up.
Ooh, and how?
Because if we build our tools test drivenly or co-op test drivenly, that perhaps we try. We also have a suite of tests that enables us to make changes to the tool and fixes much easier in the future. So I guess the next step would be to go into testing.
Nice. So we need a testing folder as well, right?
That's right. And then the next question is, which testing framework do we use? Because the bigger ones that are commonly used, let's search for .NET or .NET C# tests. Yes. So the ones that are most commonly used are either MS-Test, NUnit, and XUnit. And I'm not sure. Well, I have a personal favorite, but I'm not sure about your favorite. So which one do we pick?
What's your personal favorite?
Should I spoil it already, or do we keep it for next episode? Okay, I spoiled it. My personal favorite is XUnit.
Okay.
But it's not that.
Why is it your favorite?
I used to use, in the beginning, I used MS Test. Then I used NUnit. Then I switched to a company which used NUnit, and then I got into NUnit, and then used NUnit all the time. And then I wanted to try the third one because I never used the third one, and I never switched back from that so far. I can't really say why. It's like the current one, I guess. If there was a new one tomorrow, I may be hopping on that.
Why did you start with MS Test?
Because at the company where I was, we had MS Test, yeah. Then switched to a company which had NUnit, and then I wanted to have a look at the third one as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. Well, I don't have a personal favorite because I've never written a unit test in my life, which is probably shocking every person watching this who's ever coded before. This is not best practices. This is not what you should do. But there you go. Sometimes.
Well, more or less you
have I?
More or less, well, using, because if I recall correctly, you used a SpecFlow, right?
Yeah.
Which is a BDD, a behavior-driven development framework. And those tests, I think, are they called specification? No, how are they called? I forgot the name. Scenarios and such.
Scenarios, yeah.
If you use the SpecFlow framework, this is also an open source project, that is actually then generating tests that are written in XUnit, NUnit, or MS Test. You can select. So you haven't directly written unit tests, or you haven't directly written NUnit tests, but you have indirectly written. So
nice.
So I guess we already have. Okay, so in the future we will also have a look at SpecFlow.
Totally, it's really cool. I really enjoyed. But yeah. That's something for the future, but very good. So, but it's good, I have to learn to write unit tests at some point, and better now than never.
Then I'd suggest, do we next episode have a look at those big three testing frameworks and their assertion libraries, and then compare them against each other, write some tests with them, and then select one with which we will then use to write our unit tests for the project. How does this sound?
That sounds really good.
Cool. So we have a topic for next episode. Do we also have a date for the next session?
We do. I think it's the 8th of March, 2023.
I wrote it down somewhere, but I can't find it anymore.
UTC.
There it is.
Wait,
yes.
That was a rhyming couplet. It's 8th of March, 2023, 6 p.m. UTC.
Oh.
So
okay. So we just have to be live then.
Yes, and we will be.
So this is in 2 weeks minus an hour, I suppose.
It is.
Sweet.
No, sounds really cool. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our first episode in this season.
Hold on, I forgot the most important part. We still need to commit what we have.
Oh, we need to commit it.
Yes.
That's good.
Because how does this go? Like in case of fire, git commit, git push, leave building or something. Yeah, it's a joke. I'm not sure if this is something you should do.
Not a joke.
In case of an emergency.
It's totally best practices. In case of an emergency, it's what every firefighter, every fire person will tell you.
Yeah.
Those are the rules. It's also what the fire brigade does before they leave to save you from the burning building. They also do git commit, git push. Go and save people.
So, are they? I'm not sure. I used to be a firefighter. I never get.
No way! No way! Oh my god! That's so cool.
Back in the day, I didn't know what git was. So yeah. Would I now? I'm not sure. Well, I guess to prevent that, just push often, and then in the case of an emergency, we will not lose all too much. So yeah, so let's push our work. We have the global using, we have our program. Let's actually have a look at because we also have now this NuGet package, but we don't want to check in that. We don't want to commit that. So if the git ignore file is cool, then it shouldn't show up. So let's open GitHub Desktop and let's have a look. So we have some VS folders. I don't want to commit them now because I'm not really sure what they do. I need to invest more time into these. They come from the Visual Studio Code C# plugin. I still need to explore these because I so far mainly used Visual Studio and JetBrains Writer, but not really Visual Studio Code yet. So this is rather new for me. We do have a solution. We don't need that, but we do have our CS project. We have our global usings and we have our program. Cool. The commit message that I would like to use is derived from conventional commits. I will once again put it into the chat and later on in the video description, which suggests to use one of these tags before writing the message. So I guess we have created our first feature, right?
Yes.
So we have our first feature. What did we do? I guess create .NET tool.
Nice.
I will also add the and commit domain. Have a last look if everything was right. Solution, CS project, and two files. Push. And now it should be here.
And now we leave the building.
Ooh, now we can leave the building. Yes. So there it is. So you could reproduce it at home if you want to. And let me put that also into the live chat and later on into the video description, because this will be the source for the next set of episodes.
Amazing. That was a really good first episode, I think. We were already that was really good because it was very sort of like we said what's a tool, and then we just created it and we pushed it, and now everyone can use our fabulous tool already. So that was really cool. At the beginning of the episode, I didn't really know what a .NET tool was, and now I've created one, pushed one, ran out of the building.
And I learned how to get the video setups right, so that I don't block the code that I'm writing. Yeah.
You didn't block it all the time, though. So
okay.
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. We'll. Our credo is we want to learn something and have fun while at it. So yeah.
Definitely did that today. Hope you guys had fun too and learned a thing or two along the way. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please join us next time as well. Yeah.
Then we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll be back.